Well, hello everybody, and welcome to this episode of G Bears Off-Grid Ways, a homestead in the desert, February 10th, 2021. Yeah, I'm out here in the garden house. I'm going to be taking that cover off of my tangerine tree pretty soon here because the weather's been really nice. It is still getting a little cool at night, and I have that cover on there to protect it at night, and I have bottles of water stacked right around close to the tree, so they absorb heat during the day and then kind of hold it in there. And this is the first year since I've brought that thing out here that the tree hasn't lost all its leaves in the winter, so that's a good thing. Apparently I did something right. Okay, I'm gonna sneeze. Oh, boy, that sun gets me every time. And it was just the glare off this yellow hose. Anyway, look at the buds popping here. They are going crazy. I mean, everywhere. Everything is full of buds. Just beautiful. So over here, I've taken the foil off of my grafts. And this graft looks like it's got a little green bud coming out of it right there. So I might have to prune it back down to this bud so that it holds. And this is called parafilm. Basically, it's saran wrap. You use that for wrapping grafts too. And I performed this one sort of like a bud graft, so it may take, it may not. This is the graft that I did before, and there's a little bud popping out there, and it's still pliable, so we'll let it go a little longer and see. I'm not too sure that one's going to take, but we'll see. Anyway, I moved some tomato plants out here because they were getting root bound in the little pots that I had. This one, of course, is the one that had the one tomato on it, and this was a saved clone from last year's tomatoes that got frostbitten, and this one grew a tomato while it was in the greenhouse. So I put it out here, see if I can get that tomato to ripen, and I'll have the first tomato of the year and enjoy it. Over here in my self-watering garden, which reminds me I gotta shut that off, because the way that works, for those of you who weren't around when I put this together, down inside here, oh, looks like I've had a critter in there. That's not good. So I'm going to have to recheck this. Yeah, and it's holding my float down. So I'll get to that tomorrow. And I'm going to find out how that critter's getting in, because there's wire on this floor all the way underneath. But something got in there. And I will find it. All right. So anyway, cilantro, onions, all that stuff coming up great. I shared some of the kale with my neighbor, and I used the other to make my kale soup. And I had that last night. It was delicious. And then I was kind of tired from working all day at the neighbor's, so I took a hot shower. And oh my gosh, it didn't take, I'd have to say 15 minutes after I got out of the shower. And I was doing a nod out. It was time to go to sleep. So I got to bed early last night, had a good night's rest, got up early this morning, got out here in the garden and started working. So like I said, I brought some of the tomatoes out here and get those into the ground. And this was actually got a tomato set on it too. So I should be seeing tomatoes as long as we don't have any more frost. Here's another graft that I did on the last set of grafts, and that's got a bud popping out too, so looks like that one might be a successful graft also. And coming down to here, there's the other graft I did on this one, and that one's looking healthy too. It's got little buds starting to pop up out of it, but we'll have to wait a little bit longer to see how that does. The air layer, of course, I don't want to unwrap it yet, but I did water it today, and I'll be checking that pretty soon. I'll do it on video for you. I've got a lot of extra branches coming out on this, or they're what they call suckers, but not true suckers, because this tree was grown from seed and by Aurora and given to me. And she said it produced fruit the first year, but then it hasn't produced since. So I didn't want to cut any of the suckers off. I'm going to let those go for a little while and see if any of them bud. And then the ones that don't bud, I'll prune those off and maybe clone them if I can. But this one's starting to pop buds everywhere. Just really going strong. But I don't need a shade tree. I want fruit trees. If I got to use water for trees, I want to be able to get something back from it. And a little bit of shade, I can do that by sitting on the right side of the cabin during the hot days. Anyway, I got my strawberries all sorted out here, and I got the others broken down, the little ones, all over the place out here and planted. And I got over here, I put kiwi in, and I was over at Tractor Supply, and they had a lot of these bare roots. So I put that kiwi in, and I put another blueberry in here. This is Legacy Blueberry. And then this is Heritage Raspberry, and since I put that in, it's already sprouted. So that's a good sign. I should be doing really well on there. Now, tips and hints about planting and trees and things like that, even grafts or clones that you're doing. People have a built-in want to, when they water a plant, they want to water right at the base of the plant. Okay, that now there's not too much wrong with that, except you're just putting water at the base of the plant, so the soil around it is still dry, so the roots don't want to spread out into the dry soil. They want to stay compact at the base of the plant, and they're looking for that water. So when you're trying to root new trees like these grapevines, you can water the whole area and really get it really wet. Of course, that takes a lot of water, and out here in the desert, we try to conserve water. So one of the things that you can do is especially in pots, when you're doing this in pots, and I'll show you that in a minute. There are a couple of other tips about growing stuff in pots. Okay, if you just water around the base of this, the roots aren't going to want to spread out, so it's not going to take very well. So you've got to actually water around the outside. When you first plant the unit, the bare root tree, you do want to fill the hole with water so that you take all the air pockets out and the soil packs around the roots. But then after you wait a week or so and it comes back time to water, instead of watering around the base of the plant, water around the outside area of the planter. And the roots will seek that water out. And that's going to get them to grow stronger. It actually helps the plant. So keep that little tip in mind. All right. Now, I did water this whole garden down. I soaked it down really well today because, of course, I put some new plants in. But my strawberries are already starting to set strawberries on them. So I wanted to make sure that they had plenty of water. Because if you don't give your strawberries water, trust me, you won't have plants very long. All right, cabbage is starting to look good. It's starting to form its center heads. So that's going to really come up. Of course, like I said, it's been springtime weather out here, so it's great. Plenty of broccoli flowers on this plant. And even the broccoli leaves, I eat those. So I get a lot out of that. Here's some clones that I stuck in the ground, and these, of course, you want to keep wet around the base. These don't have roots yet. They're trying to establish roots. So you water these close to the stem. And if they have roots, when you put them in, like a bare root plant or something like that, you water it around the roots when you plant. But then after that, start moving the water out a little further around the plant so that the roots, the plant will actually tell the roots, hey, There's water over there. Go that way. So the roots will grow stronger and faster that way. All right. So one of the things, another secret about growing stuff in pots. So a lot of people tend to overwater. Now you can buy potting soils that prevent overwatering, underwatering, all of that. But if you got a pot like this and you got a plant inside of it and you overwater it, you're going to kill the plant. So how do you know if it needs water? Very simple method I use. Okay, here it is. Come over, pick up the pot. Okay, use 2 fingers. If it's heavy, put it back down. It doesn't need water. If it's super light, well, that one's wet because I just took that other tomato out of there. But if it's super light when you pick it up, it needs water. It's dry. So that's a very simple way of knowing. See, now this one is medium weight. It's not really super light. It's medium weight. So that one will be okay until tomorrow, but that one's going to need water tomorrow. And these, of course, these are plants that I just transplanted into the buckets that I took those other 2 tomatoes out of. So I'll get more tomatoes coming up out of these. And same thing, these are suckers that I broke off of the plants before I took them outside to plant them. And I stuck those in the ground, and they will take and root, and then I'll have more tomato plants. I don't need that many tomato plants. But my neighbors up the road, they might want some tomato plants. And instead of going to town and spending $7 for a tomato plant, I'll give them one for free. How's that sound? All right. Sweet pea flowers coming up great. Cilantro is popping up everywhere. When I was taking the plant apart, the seeds were flying all over in the wind, and they got into just about every pot. So I gave a bunch of that to my neighbor yesterday. My peas and my cucumbers all doing well here. Another cucumber down here. I took it down from up here because I already have one up here. Carrots doing just outstandingly great. Let's see. I'll see if I can pull one up here and do a little thinning while I'm here, and I'll show you what I'm talking about, what I got. Okay, so there's my carrots. Okay, so they're looking pretty good. But it'll be a little while longer before they're actually ready to be a good meal. So I'm not going to waste that. I'll take this and rinse it off. I got water right here. I'll rinse it off. I'll throw the greens into the chickens. And I'll munch that little carrot there. That way when it gets dark out tonight, I'll be able to see what's going on out here. Don't you love it? All right. So another thing is, I had a couple of apple tree grafts that I had inside of my motorhome. You've seen my motorhome sitting out there. And since I don't use it, I used it for protecting plants. So I had the windows on this side open so that the sun would get them in the morning. Windows on the other side open so sun would get them in the afternoon. And I put some small grafted trees in there. They're apple trees. So what I did was, I have a friend who has an apple grove with a lot of different apple trees in it. And I went there and I asked them, take some scions off your trees. And they said, sure. But give me a little while and I'll mark the ones I want you to cut. So he actually had me prune his trees for him while I was getting my scions to do my grafts. But I got 6 different plants, or 6 different apples, and they've been in the motorhome, and you can see them all sprouting here. Well, they're doing really well. I took them out of smaller pots. That pot right down there that has that cucumber in it was one of the pots. The other one is just outside the door here. But they were in small pots inside the motorhome, and they were doing just well. But the tags I had on them, you couldn't read them. They were all faded. So I had some old key tags here, and I could just barely tell what they were saying, and I wrote down the new ones. So this tree's from 2019, and that's why it's looking so healthy. And it's got buds on the others here, but different apples sprout at different times of the year. So that's what I want. I want this one to produce apples on one side of the tree, and then as they are all getting used up, produce a different apple on the other side of the tree, and then as those are getting used up, produce another apple on the other side of the tree, and then go all the way back to the beginning again. That's my plan. So this side of the tree, I've got the Beverly Hills apples on there. On this side of the tree, I got the Einsheimer's or Shamers, and then the Anna apple. Okay, so the Annas come out in they start sprouting early spring like this. Okay, on this one, it's just starting to show some buds popping on it, as you can see here. And this one, down low, and these were all bud grafts. As you can see, the cut that I made on there for the bud graft. Okay, so this is Red Delicious down here, Ambrosia's in the middle, and Fuji at the top. Okay, so these are all bud grafts. And I told you, bud grafts are actually the best way to go. Now, problem is that I did not mark my rootstock as to what it was. And this branch is coming off the rootstock. So I'm not sure what that is. I'm going to have to wait until it gets bigger and produces, and then I'll be able to mark it. Now, I thought I only did 3 to each branch, but this one already split. As you can see right there where I cut it off, after the first year I pruned it back, but it's come back, and this one too. So there's where I cut it off right there. It came back on a new branch on the outside, and a new branch on the other side. So it's starting to split off, and this one hasn't done anything yet because I didn't cut that one off. That was the last graft I actually put on this tree before it went in the motorhome. And I had to go out there and constantly keep these things watered in there. But it was warmer inside of there than it was outside, and I didn't have a greenhouse at the time. So that was the place to get these trees started. Hopefully they're going to make it. This is a clone, a branch that I cut off of the Anjou pear tree over there, and it has a T at the bottom, I told you. Well, I planted that here. So hopefully this one looks like it's really doing well. Hopefully it's growing some nice strong roots down in there. And this is now at the point where I have to water the whole thing, because I don't know how big the rootstock is at the bottom. Now I can wiggle it, and it feels pretty sturdy, but it's probably only got a bunch of little hair type roots coming out of it. It's not strong enough yet. Okay, these are Tangelo trees that came off seeds that I got from my friend Bill's Tangelo tree. And I grew these from seed. Now, this one here is doing really well, but it's probably root bound about now. So it's going to have to be taken out of there. And that's why I saved the bigger buckets out there that these apples came out of, because that's the one that the apple came out of. So I'll be using that to transplant these into and give them a little bit more room. But I'm running out of room here in my greenhouse. So I'm going to call this one a day. I'm going to go inside, have a cold one, and get these uploaded. And potatoes are doing great. But yeah, everything in here is doing well. I can't wait for these peas. The flowers are popping everywhere. I can't wait for those to start producing, because when I'm out here, I love to take a pee in the greenhouse. All right, everybody. That's all I have for today. Hey, Tony, Leanne, thank you for the shout out you gave me on your video. That's doing redneck things off grid with Tony and Leanne. You guys drop over, say hi to them. Help push them ahead a little bit. They need a few more subscribers so they can get up to par and start monetizing and making a few bucks. This is G Bear, thanking you for joining me and signing off.